Ladies and gents, welcome back. It's been a minute since I've had this guest on the channel. Well, it feels like a long time, and it's been quite a bit. Marty Up North, you've been gone for a good amount of time. You said you were going to be gone 10 days. What's it been?
Well, first, happy to be back. Hope things are well with you. I mean, we spoke on Wednesday, I would say August 2nd. I left on August 3rd and started my hike on August 4th in the morning. You know, it takes half a day to get to the trailhead, and joined by two companions, and we headed up into a seldom, maybe we'll talk a little bit about it. I headed up into an area called the Clyde Wilderness. That's a picture of Joe Blake. Did a 170-kilometer loop in the Clyde and the White Goat Wilderness. And the achievement for me, that's a view. Actually, maybe if you got that was the highlight of the trip right now. That pass is called Red Pass, and that pass is at 2,939 meters above sea level. So looking down on both, a pass for the viewers is a place where that separates watersheds. So the water on one side of the pass are going, let's say, south, and then the other side they're going north. Mm-hmm. In fact, there's not a lot of water at that part of the world. We're so high,
right?
And we're so high that the tree line is not even visible almost. I mean, for the mountains in every direction is just rocks.
So it looks like gravel up there. How is that? How does that form?
Oh, now you'd be getting into a topic that's near and dear to me. This is stuff that would have been. In fact, I've been on places like this, Clyde, where we find fossils on mounts like this, at thousands of feet or meters above sea level, and that's because in Alberta, you got one continental plate of Alberta, the continent, dipping down or dipping up, and you got the Pacific plate dipping down, the tectonic plates, and the Rocky Mountains were formed that way. They're pushed up. So in some cases, these are old ocean beds that are now way up in the thousands of meters. It's fascinating.
That's amazing. Yeah, actually, we don't get to see.
I wish I had one
on
my deck, but I'm looking around. Hang on, I'll just grab one. Hang on one second.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah, most of this stuff that I've ever seen has been, accessed by a chairlift. So that's amazing.
This is, the guys probably can't see it very well. Let me refocus myself here.
Oh, get it
this
right
is, I'll put it in my face. This is a horn coral. So it grows on the seabed, kind of like a carrot. And this one was found at about 2,000 meters above sea level.
Incredible.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Yeah. So, yeah.
So
it's a fun trip. And go ahead. Sorry.
I was just saying, especially since we've been hearing so much about climate change these days, you could just see how much the climate actually has changed in the past, where you're finding ocean corals at the top of a mountain.
I say that often, especially on the trail. I mean, I live in an environment that is that has witnessed 400 million years of climate change, and I can point the evidence of that. I mean, some of those, you talk about gravel. If you came hiking with me, I could show you what a moraine is, which is gravel that's been pushed by a glacier. I could show you layers of sediment that have been pushed up and that are vertical instead of being flat. And you can see in some cases, anyways, tons of evidence of climate change. I always say that to people. I mean, I walk in a part of the world where I see evidence of 400 million years worth of climate change. The other thing we saw on this hike, I saw, I walked through areas that have been burned down 20 years ago, 30 years ago, and today they're growing back, and they got smaller trees and wildflowers, and they're rich with moose and wolves and things like that. The forest regenerates itself. Mm-hmm. I wish more Canadians could see this kind of stuff, and it is a topic. It is something, I mean, I'm traveling with my companions, and we only have each other. We don't have the internet. We don't have cell phones. We don't have stuff. So we just sit around the fire and bullshit every night and do it for 10 days. And we talk about topics like this when we're, on the trail, which I just want to remind, that's why you and I are talking today. We normally talk on Wednesdays, but I wanted to talk today because we agreed. I have had zero cell communications, zero internet, zero contact with the outside world. I got home last night, and today I spent the morning doing laundry, unpacking, eating, sleeping. And so now you're going to surprise me with whatever, we're going to discuss the news of the last 10 days, Canadian and otherwise.
Well, I thought we were expecting, the world to end or the prime minister to step down or something like that during the past 10 days. Well, none of that happened.
So I'll ask you that big question. Did Trudeau step down while I was gone?
No, he didn't step down. And I didn't think he was gonna. I really didn't think he was gonna. He did, of course. You were here when there was the separation between him and Sophie Gregoire Trudeau. Yep. And then that turned into a big, it was just a farcical thing in Canada here, as everybody looked to them and said, well, haven't you guys been split up for ages? Now, what came out from that with the Blacklocks Reporter, fantastic outfit that does good journalism, real journalism in Canada here, discovered that, well, in the proceedings of someone being separated from the prime minister, it puts Sophie in a position where she's no longer she'll no longer have to come forward with financial records or anything like this to the Ethics Commission, which she had to do in the past. And last year, she formed a new company where she'll be doing her own speaking and doing all of her speaking fees through this company. So it seems like maybe this is more tied into what the timing was for their recent separation. And
wow!
And I was going to get into it right after they announced the separation. They went on vacation together in British Columbia.
So they're not separated, or they're
legally separated, wow. and under the eyes of any ethics commissioner, that's what matters.
This sounds like the Bill and Melinda Gates reason for separating, and some of the other high-profile separations. I mean, it's like, let's separate legally, but stay together emotionally, or whatever it is. But let me ask you a couple. So is that a privilege? So first of all, is there a privilege to her that is granted because she is the wife of a prime minister, or is this?
No, it's just they can no longer look into her financial doings. She's exempt from having any disclosures.
Okay, so she, no special treatment. So she separates, and she's no longer treated like, because was she okay? Wow, that's interesting.
She just doesn't have to disclose any of the stuff. So all that stuff that was unearthed during the WE scandal, they won't be able to do that again.
As a politician, but somebody could do it to her as a private citizen, I suppose.
That could possibly be it, but they couldn't look into her when they're looking into Trudeau.
Right. Wow. So do you think, or is the thought now that he's going to shelter money through her, or do something like that? Is there something a little more nefarious?
It just seems like that could be a possibility now, as we've saw that they've done that previously in the past with, like, again, the WE scandal, all that money going through the Trudeau Foundation, going to his mother, going to Sophie, and now they just don't have to disclose this stuff. So this is part of that whole thing, and then it's right back to just being a miserable looking couple. That's the thing.
Well, I'm surprised. Actually, I'm surprised. I'm surprised. I thought they were genuinely had grown apart, and they were two narcissists who were fed up with each other. And you're telling me now this might be a clever political and economic and taxation kind of ploy.
That's what it looks like to me, anyway.
Wow.
But right away, they said we're splitting. They made it very public, and then asked for privacy. To nobody's surprise, Trudeau immediately came out and showed pictures of him and his son here going to their team Barbie, he announced, as they were going to watch the new Barbie movie. Now,
I can't even stop.
I know, right?
Oh my God, stop.
So I didn't even know this was his son. I just thought it was another picture of him posing with someone at a gay pride parade, but it's his son, and showing just how masculine men are in the Trudeau's world. And then there was a bunch of people criticized, and immediately it was a back and forth backlash between the left and the right, and people saying, how dare you criticize him? He asked for privacy, and it's like, well, how dare you put out your private life and then not expect criticism.
This is going to get turned into a meme, I'm sure, or has it been turned into a
Oh,
meme? I mean, this is
has.
ripe for the meme, right? This
It
is
has.
just.
So
Yeah.
anyway, a few days later, he puts out another tweet saying, "Oh, just to even things out, I went and saw Oppenheimer with my daughter." And that was a thing. And of course,
so his daughter's the smart one, and his son is the what's he insinuating by all of this? I don't know.
I don't even want to say my opinion on that one.
Yeah,
these
have
are
you
young
seen
kids.
Oppenheimer? That's on my list of things to do. Have you seen
I
Oppenheimer?
haven't seen it. No, I don't live near a
No,
theater,
yeah.
so I have to wait until things are streaming anyway. And this is just this is the life of living in the modern Canada, where if you're not in a city, you don't have a theater. But a lot of people, I think this was a ploy to get people to comment on his young children, and then be able to lash back and say, "How dare you say this about young kids?" Most people
said that he's going. He is going a little bit about after the sympathy vote too. He's a hardworking man. He politics is tough. He's sacrificing his family a little bit, but now he's going to show that it's all good and. They're going to milk this. They're going to milk this.
So in response, though, this is a great thing. In response, Pierre Poilievre has put out a bunch of ads saying about how he's a family man. He's got a strong home. He's doing things in a great way, and showing off the fact that he's not a failure as a father. And then also showing a bit of masculinity out there as he's going on the campaign trail, boxing with kids and whatnot. Basically pulling out all the punches and being the opposite of the flamboyant male feminist prime minister.
Boy, they really are working on Pierre's transformation, though. Eh?
They are.
He's hardly recognizable. Like he's
He's definitely hitting the gym
and everything.
Yeah, he's hitting the gym.
Yeah, so, good for him.
So they're going for that look,
wow.
and he's winning with this. In fact, the polls have been turning around, and they're fluctuating between the projections on, and this is from 338 Canada, saying if there was an election tomorrow. Last week they were saying it looks like there would be a majority, but just squeaking by. This week it's back down to one away from being a majority if there was an election tomorrow. So this is more confirmation to what we were talking about before, and me saying I don't think there will be an election because Trudeau will be throwing any chance of power away. He's going to hang on to it until 2025 if he can possibly.
Yeah, and then we talked about the money situation and whatnot. Now, has anything happened with Jagmeet and Trudeau subsequent to this? How's their relationship in the last week been, or is Jagmeet sort of
just laying low and sitting on the back burner, not saying much, and just trying to avoid the media because he just looks bad every time he gets out there in the media? I mean, his usual things that he says. Corporations are greedy and all of that stuff. So it's nothing new to come out on that. But we have seen some, and we were getting into climate change a minute ago. Climate change is on the thing again. They announced the new clean electricity regulations, and this is on top of the just transition. And they're moving to the western provinces, namely Alberta, and putting the thumb down on the scale for that one.
Can they just Can they just leave us alone? So now we got a clean fuel, and now they're talking about they're being very specific, a clean electricity.
That's correct. They're bringing in new regulations that'll. The regulations aren't completely clear out there. It's just been a lot of this is what we say is going to happen when it comes through. We know the fuel regulations could cost the province, or could cost people up to $1.7 billion, I believe it was, or 1.7 trillion. Yeah. And
no, Danielle, prior to, she, as soon as Danielle got elected, she kind of made that statement that she knew that there was something like this coming down the proverbial pipe, and she had budgeted it herself. And this was one of the battles that Danielle sort of said was existential for Alberta, and that she was willing to fight. So this, this came from Guilbeault, right? This had to come from Guilbeault. So is he starting a new campaign? Like, is this the post cabinet shuffle? This is now Guilbeault. It's not even carbon tax. We're already past that. That's a done deal. So now he's already full steam ahead on clean electricity.
Yeah. So the carbon tax is a done deal. It's happened.
That's a done deal.
They're going to implement the next raise in carbon tax whenever the next thing is supposed to happen.
It's every April. I mean, we're at $60 a ton. I think it's going to 90 in a year from now, and then to some ridiculous number. But an electricity rule like that is really, 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 really targeting Alberta and Saskatchewan, because we're basically the only two provinces that don't have a hope in hell of doing anything hydro. I don't know what they're asking us to do. That's why it's existential to us, because we can't do anything else. Like, we can't magically make hydroelectricity in Alberta.
No, you
and
can't.
we can import it from BC and Manitoba, but even then it would be at an extreme cost, and I don't even think BC has a surplus. Like, it's wow.
And so this is where Danielle Smith came in, and she made an announcement saying, I'm not going to play the audio, but she's made an announcement saying that no, we're going to stand up against this. Even with the plans that Alberta has to move towards a more sustainable electricity grid in 2050, I believe it's like pushed way out. It's still going to need natural gas in order to subsidize, like, when you run out of wind and solar. I mean, it's obvious. Germany learned these lessons the hard way. And Alberta doesn't want to learn it the hard way. So Danielle's saying not going to happen.
When was her announcement? What did she do? This was a couple of days ago, but I see the headline. The headline, I mean, fairy tale. It is fairy tale. Like, to wean Alberta off of coal-fired was tough enough, but now if you want to get us off natural gas-fired electricity, well, actually, there's something in that that I could see a little bit of positive. As an engineer, if you want to get to carbon neutral, which I think is a really silly thing, but if you want to get to carbon neutral, it's nuclear. And Saskatchewan and Alberta have uranium, and we could go nuclear. It's unfortunate that as a society, the whole planet basically wasted 20, 25 years. We got scared of nuclear when we should have been researching more into nuclear. I'd be happy if we went nuclear. If this made us go nuclear, that'd be okay with me.
Well, there's definitely promise in some of these small modular reactors. The technology's available. We just need to implement it and actually make it happen.
We'll just go kidnap a Russian nuclear sub and then park it up in the Great Slave Lake and plug it in. We'll be good.
There we go.
Americans have been doing it with their Navy forever and ever. I mean, there's let's do an American sub. Let's not do a Russian one.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, how's the war in Ukraine going? No victory in Ukraine. That was the other one we thought of while I was hiking. Nothing, no victory. No development there.
No victory. Biden promised a whole bunch more, a lot more billions of dollars for Ukraine. I don't recall an announcement from Canada, but Canada's still very much on board with that whole thing, and even Pierre Poilievre. So there's no like back and forth when it comes to politics on this. The only politician that was ever really against it was Maxime Bernier, and he has no chance out there. In fact, Maxime's been getting some pushback this week because he's been going hard against Pierre Poilievre on Twitter, and people are actually starting to say to him, like even his own camp are saying, come on, man, get with it, back off. Like, why don't we just, get with the Conservatives and figure out what's going to come next? Because we want to be able to at least have, people from their camp are saying we want to be able to at least negotiate with the Conservatives and have them, represent us instead of being some separate thing entirely, right?
I wish he would. I mean, yes, Max, you've made a good point. You ran your campaign, you lost, but you lost gracefully. You brought up some good ideas. Now throw an olive branch and form an alliance. Otherwise, if you don't, now he's going to look like a complete fool if he continues down this path of fighting Poilievre and pretending that he's going to be elected.
Well, the thing is, so he doesn't have any friends on the side of the Liberals or the NDP because they think he's a conspiracy theorist, a wacko, and all of that stuff. Well, this has been hurled at Pierre Poilievre now. So this is an announcement that went out, or it was an article that went out from the CBC, and it's Poilievre's Conservative Party embracing language of mainstream conspiracy theories. And this is largely to do with his objection to the World Economic Forum and him saying that he would, you ban anyone in his cabinet from being a member of the World Economic Forum. So that the media came out in lockstep. It was actually kind of funny because people pointing out here, Andrew Scheer pointing out that all of these outlets had the exact same story, same title, and ran the same story, saying that he's a conspiracy theorist. But they've all conspired to run this article about him. Wow. And so I did a story about this morning because, well, this is a genuine concern for a lot of Canadians. There's a lot of Canadians are, we live in a parliamentary system where we have MPs, we have representatives, and they're supposed to represent the people of Canada, your constituency, and they're supposed to, take your ideas and bring them to Ottawa and then see if we can't reach an agreement. But that hasn't been what's happened. And we see a lot of influence, and we've seen this from throughout politics throughout the years, lobby groups and things like that. But now we have even bigger billionaire class lobby groups like the World Economic Forum who are peddling lots of influence. And despite the constituencies saying we don't want these policies, they're putting them forward nonetheless. And we've seen a ton of that with Justin Trudeau. Not only that, but the Deputy Prime Minister of Canada, Chrystia Freeland, is a sitting member of the Board of Trustees of the World Economic Forum. If there's a conflict of interest, I think that would be it right there.
Yeah, no, definitely. MP, yes. So a Canadian MP should not be sitting on the World Economic Forum. They could sit on the UN committees. That's fine. The World Economic Forum is basically a private organization not for all intents and purposes. It is a private organization. Yeah. It's nothing more than a private club trying to impose their own policies. Now, should we ban every MP from going there? No, I think, we should keep an eye on what's going. Yeah. But should we send a delegation? No, but should do I want a couple of people going to that conference once in a while to see what's going on? I would.
Well, they're televised now, so you can watch what's going on anyway.
Yeah.
It used to be like a hobnobbing, so the politicians would go over and they get to meet the other, finance minister from whatever other country, or they're equals from other governments, and they get to go talk about how things are going in their governments and how things are going. But it's turned into much more of a lobby group pushing and peddling influence. And this is coming right from the founders' words. Now, for people who don't understand what the World Economic Forum is, it's a lobby group that started back in the 1970s with Klaus Schwab, and he was he was an acquaintance of the people that were in the Club of Rome, and they started the World Economic Forum to try to peddle influence and get governments to go in the direction that they wanted things to be favored. And, well, they've been having a little bit of success in that, a lot of success, actually. And, and Canadians are a little bit fed up with that. And people around the world are with their own governments.
Well, for me, apart from watching Klaus and listening to him and thinking, he sounds like Darth Vader or whatever. I mean, he scares me. But the one thing I really don't like about the World Economic Forum these days is this whole concept of the Great Reset. And the Great Reset scares the bejeebies out of me because, we've talked about this a little bit. Point out to me what's not working, right? Yeah, that we are, they'll say we're leaving certain Canadians behind, but I'll say we're always leaving Canadians behind, no matter what, right? As an example, high school is free. So there's no cost to going all the way through high school. And yet there are still people who don't graduate high school, and because of that end up in a shitty job. And so if no matter what, with the great systems we have, we will always leave a few people behind. It's unfortunate, but that's just the way it is. Mm-hmm. But otherwise, if you think about what, why do we need a great reset? I can't come to, I don't have an answer to a great reset. Nothing around me. I mean, as flawed as our courts might be, as flawed as our schools might be, and our police institutions and our government and our other things, they're pretty darn good, right? I mean, and I'd rather tweak them and make them a little bit better. In fact, that's what I prefer. That's how you work when you're fixing a car or modifying your car. You do a little tweak, and if it didn't work well, you bring it back and you try something different.
Yeah, you don't change too many things at once. You've got too many variables. You're not going to understand what took
exactly.
place.
Don't change the tire size and the timing on the engine and the coating on the paint, because that's exactly. So change a few things. So the words "great reset" scares the crap out of me. And I can't understand why they would even think that there's a great reset. I mean, we're doing pretty good. It's too bad that we are leaving a few people behind, but I think a lot of the people we're leaving behind are doing it. It's their own choice, man. Like, there's people that just don't want to be helped no matter what. So,
the news media in the way they're talking about this stuff is it's been a conspiracy theory to think that the Great Reset was a thing. And it's funny because it's a book that was published. I actually have a copy of it. I have a copy of the book here by Klaus Schwab himself, where this is the book, COVID-19, The Great Reset, where he talks about what he wanted to do and use COVID-19 as a way of implementing things moving forward. And Trudeau himself even said, we're going to use what we learned from COVID-19 to use the same methods to see the climate crisis.
And when you read that book is not thoughts that came to him post-COVID, right? So it's probably like it is a well thought out. It's 20 years of thoughts kind of thing.
It reads like corporate mumbo jumbo, but it really is like the idea of like we would like to change the course of where things are going. This whole idea of stakeholder capitalism and all of that. And I'm still going through his second book, which is called The Great Narrative, which is,
my God, these
it's another corporate.
They make it looks like it made me think of Jehovah's Witnesses, a Church of Scientology. Like, do you join the World Economic Forum and you have to read Klaus's books one by one, and then I'm sure there's a parallel. No, I feel like,
he talks.
The only thing
he talks about a new economic system called stakeholder capitalism, and this is where all this ESG stuff is coming around. But the way it reads, because I know a bit about economics, and the way it reads is a lot. It's pretty scary, because a lot of people are saying they're communists. I don't think they are. I think they have a lot more to do with like the actual economic system of fascists, where it was the facade of private property, more of a rental economy, and people don't really own stuff. There's a set of corporations that own it all, and then they discuss with the government how things will be implemented, and then they just move forward with the implementation. You're right to be damned.
But it's fascism, but instead of the state owning the things, it's the
corporate interests.
Corporate interests, yes. But then when you look behind the curtain of the corporate interests, you're going to quickly see that the corporate interests and the political, exactly.
Well, Mussolini said it best. I think he said fascism was the idea. It wasn't the right word for it. Corporatism would have been the better word, because it's a perfect merger of corporation and state. It's that form of, and it's a type of socialism.
The whole word fascism was interesting, right? Because I mean the fascia or the fasci or whatever is actually like an object. It's a
bundle of sticks,
isn't it? It's a bundle of sticks, and so he was trying to use that analogy, and it was interesting. But if he had something else, he might have been, if the bundle of sticks didn't exist, he would have picked something else. So he picked. I understand where he picked the analogy, and it wasn't perfect, but we know what happened to Mussolini. Can the Schwabs of the world actually forget about that? Now I'm going to get into another realm, but I want to go back to one thing.
Yeah.
Somebody needs to start a list of conspiracies that actually came through, because my whole thought on this, I'm the guy who said many, many times that he didn't believe in conspiracies because conspiracies are too complicated to pull off. But then we got into the fact that no, conspiracies don't always involve huge government organizations or huge corporations. Sometimes it just takes a small group and they can pull off a conspiracy. And in the last 50 years, I'm beginning to think that there's a hell of a lot of conspiracies that actually turned out to be conspiracies.
Yeah, like, pretty accurate stuff.
We weren't wrong all the way up to, the aliens. I mean, we talked about that on the hike. I gotta do more research on this, but people are literally, we're starting to learn that there are aliens on this planet. Like there are,
that's the other thing that could be one of the big distractions that's coming out as the economy's crashing, as things are not doing very well, economically. Canadians, Americans are seeing the effects of the policies of Biden, the policies of Trudeau, and it's hurting. It's really hurting. They need a genuine distraction, and it just happens to be that there's a whole bunch of whistleblowers coming out about a bunch of aliens. They haven't produced anything like a spaceship or an alien, but there's a lot of talking.
The buddy I was hiking with said there was literally a congressional hearing not too long ago where experts were testifying under oath before some congressman, and the congressman looked at the guy point blank and said, like, are there aliens? And the guy said something like, well, we have biologicals. I'm like, wow, we have biologicals? That's cool.
We'll see how true it is. I said, distractions. They're welcoming any kind of distractions they can get until I see some sort of hard proof. I don't know if I'm really going to buy what it is that they have to say. There's too much out there. Those are the real conspiracies. Where the realm that I dig in is the conspiracies that are, they're not so fantastical. It's a bunch of people who want to steer governments in a particular direction, and they're doing it by lobbying them. I mean, it's right out in the open. Totally. It's right there. They televise their own stuff. They put it on the internet for everybody to see. There's no conspiracy there. Well, I mean, if there is a conspiracy, it's a conspiracy of fact. It's not a theory. So this is what they're trying to rake Pierre Poilievre through the coals on this one, but he's lashing back. He put out a tweet today after all of this, and he said Trudeau's media are desperate to stop his continued downfall. Today, CBC News Service's CP wrote a hit piece on me because I dared criticize the World Economic Forum, a group of multinational CEOs and powerful politicians that push their interests. I work for the people of in this country, and I will bring home democracy without apology. So this is his stance, and he's winning favor because of it.
And it's a nice stance. And the other thing is, Pierre, unlike, let's say, Trudeau and many other politicians, I'm sure he doesn't tweet all his own tweets, but he does tweet a bunch of his own tweets. Like that reads to me like something that Pierre would write. And if it's not Pierre, he's got somebody who's very good at writing stuff for him. Because, a lot of politicians, I always thought, like, get somebody else to write your stuff. I mean, you're like Jagmeet Singh, well, I don't even want to give him any pointers, but Jagmeet, you should get somebody else to write your tweets. Like that's, hire somebody other than an 18-year-old wannabe politician intern and get somebody with a bit of skill.
I'd argue when Pierre's team writes the tweets, they're not so good. When they write the statements that go out publicly, they're not so favorable to people, and people are kind of a little lackluster on those ones. When he actually speaks, people are more interested because it seems more genuine.
Totally. And in fact, if I was a politician, I don't think I'd have a team writing my tweets. I might have one called. No, I wouldn't, because you're right. Then you'd have to go read your own tweets to know what you said, and then you're going to get caught. So I think that's a dangerous trap. I would, two things. I mean, it's the other reason I always tell people, don't lie, because if you don't lie, then it's not hard to remember what you said. But if you're constantly lying and making up bullshit, you're not going to remember what you said. So don't lie. And if somebody asks me something and I have an unpopular opinion, I'm not going to lie. I'm going to give you my unpopular opinion, so I don't have to backtrack and change all the time.
So there's one other thing that was in the news this week, and it was a big hitting story, and that was wildfires. So again, with the wildfires, it's not the same as what we were witnessing here in Canada before, but Maui had a big wildfire on the island.
Maui?
Yes, unbelievably. Hurricane was rolling through it, missed the big island, and apparently it hit Maui, and somehow there was fires. So it was really devastating, and it's not necessarily forest fires, but rolled right through neighborhoods and displaced thousands of people. Unbelievably, a lot of really wealthy people like Jeff Bezos and Oprah Winfrey, their properties were relatively unscathed. Well, a lot of properties that have been historically owned by locals for generations have been absolutely obliterated. So this is what's been in the news. There's not that much information about what's caused them. Other than reports that it sounded like there was, like it all ignited like a bomb, and this is, it's still there. It's still fresh, this story.
Where the hell do you run to when you're on an island that's on fire? I guess you jump in your boat and you wait offshore for a while.
There was people waiting in the water, and they were filming it as they were in the water. So the death toll, we still don't know. But it's looking really bad. The fire got so hot at one point that like people's wheels were melting. So there's burned out cars, and the magnesium and aluminum wheels are just melted.
And that's terrible. But just staying on that topic real quick. Again, when I was in the back country this past week, I did go through a forest fire area that had occurred probably 30 years ago, and everything grew back, and it's looking glorious. And we were talking about that, and we were, fires. Some of the fires we do have are by man-made in a sense. They're by man neglect. I mean, we're neglecting forests. But we're also encroaching on the forests, and we're building in places that we love, where no matter what, we're putting people at risk because they want to live close to forests and things like that. So, and no matter what, I think at the end of the day, in a given millennia, let's pick a timeline. In a given millennia, every square inch of Canada will burn.
Yeah.
And in a given millennia, every square inch of the U.S. will burn, and in a given millennia, every square inch of Hawaii will burn. So, it's bad timing when it happens when you're alive and it's your house, but it's inevitable. That's my opinion on that whole thing. But I'll look into that story. I mean, that's interesting, because I wouldn't have thought of Hawaii as a place that would have fires. But I guess, I've never been to Hawaii, so I just thought of Hawaii as a volcanic island.
Yeah, same. I've never been there, but lots of people displaced there. And also here in the Northwest Territories, a bunch of fires just broke out recently in the past few days, and it's a big thing, and it's actually displacing thousands of people up there in the Northwest Territories. The causes of these fires are unknown, but it seems a lot like a similar situation to what happened in Quebec earlier this year, where satellite photos are just showing fires igniting in a bunch of different locations all around the same time. A lot of people are confused about what caused all of this, and there's not a lot of people up there, and we still don't know what happened.
Wow. Okay. So is that the week in Canada? So it was a pretty quiet week then. It was not
really quiet, actually.
No stock market crash, no bank announcements. I guess there's no interest rate announcement until probably a couple of weeks from now.
Yeah, my guess is that it will go up again. I'm still staying firm on that one. I think I'm guessing 2 basis points, but we'll see, because the recovery hasn't been as good as they're boasting, and I still don't think we're in recovery yet. I think we haven't even hit recession yet. It's coming.
I'm looking forward to, like I said, the consumer price index is one thing when they claim the 2% inflation, but we'll know if what they truly believe based on the interest rate climbs or not. I'm also one thing I did while I was gone, or when I got back today, you told me not to get on the internet, so I didn't get on the internet, but I did a little bit of research. So Alberta published its the Statistics Canada published its excess deaths numbers. They do that once a month, so I'll do a little post on that on Twitter tomorrow. But excess deaths are still not coming down. Like, for viewers, there's statisticians predict a number of deaths expected across the provinces in a given week, And then they compare that to actual deaths. And here in Alberta, we're still exceeding the expected by about 100 a week. So 100 more people a week than expected are dying. And that to me, that's still post-COVID. That's to me, that's the vaccine and a few other things. It's not long COVID, but anyways, we'll break that down.
That actually reminds me
cool.
of a story that did happen that I didn't have in my list of things that I wanted to talk about. But the ivermectin has now been lifted. The ban on it has been lifted now that there's no emergency measures, and doctors are now free to prescribe ivermectin for COVID-19. They did that on the sly, though. So it wasn't headlines.
Yeah. Well, now I'm thinking about a bunch of other stories, but we'll talk about those next week, because now I'm also curious to see what happened while I was, because wasn't there a couple of court cases also kicking off last week related, like the soldiers that were wrongfully discharged from the Canadian military? Didn't they start their court case last week?
The court case actually just did start last week. I had
okay, so we'll have some good topics to talk about next week then. So
yes.
Yeah, that'll be. Let's save that one for next week. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, anyone who's listening into this, you can go check it out. I had Christine Christensen on. She's the lawyer representing the 300 plus military service members, and the video's on the channel, and she was talking about that particular court case. But it's looking good. It's looking like we're gonna see some benefit from this one.
We're going to see lots and lots of these. Every little victory will count. It will be important. So that's a big one. I look forward to seeing that one. It's a shame that to treat our military personnel like that, and to because for the viewers, the military personnel had already gone through something like this back in the when the war in Afghanistan was starting, 15 years ago. Canadian soldiers, it's always been the case, they're expected to get vaccinated when they go into foreign countries. And when they went to Afghanistan, a lot of them came back and got sick because they took all these weird vaccines to be, it rushed. And that's why they validly said no. Some of them said, whoa. Yeah, we're soldiers and we're willing to take risk. And when a soldier says, that's not a risk I'm willing to take, I was sick as a dog after you made me go to Afghanistan. Mm-hmm. And so, those are important cases. I look forward to seeing the results of that one.
Yes, because that's moving forward. And again, it looks promising. One thing to understand is that they're still under a mandate. The military, that never was lifted, so they're still under the COVID-19 vaccination mandate in the Canadian Armed Forces. So it's more, but I think the governments are moving past this, and they're looking at climate change as their next big thing to suspend civil liberties over. And we have to fight these battles, but we still have to keep the ball in the court, and we still have to fight them.
What's the old expression? If you allow the government to break the law in an emergency, they will always
find a new emergency.
They'll always find a new emergency. They'll create one. And actually, it's not just governments. I hate to admit this, but I work in industry, and I've worked for a few companies where we would create a little mini crisis. Not we, but I often felt like management was creating some sort of crisis. Hey, we're losing market share or this and that, and create a little panic to justify a reorganization in some cases, or in some cases with good, to justify bringing a team together. Because that also, I like that aspect. I like the aspect of a real emergency that brings a team together to solve a problem. Mm-hmm. That I like, the rallying a group around a cause. But
these aren't real problems, though.
These aren't real problems.
We're not fighting real problems. We could have a real environmental success if we would concentrate on pollution, air quality, water quality, and none of this catastrophism of the planet's going to blow up next year that never ends up happening. So we can
planet's going to boil. Let me tell the viewers, I was out and I have a choice of sleeping bags that I can bring when I go hiking, and for this one I brought a 4 degrees Celsius rating, which means I'm supposed to be comfortable in 4 degrees. I wish I brought my 0 degree bag, or maybe even my -10 bag, because I was shivering every night.
Oh, wow.
It was 10 days of temperatures never hit plus, higher than 20, and we had nearly frost that night. So it's cold, and the rivers were high, and it was seasonal, and I should have listened to myself. I shouldn't have listened to the media that told me there was a heat wave.
That's even more calories lost. That's hard when you're on a calorie deficiency already.
Oh yeah.
Shivering
and actually,
all night.
the sad thing is you're shivering all night, but making food is an effort. So even though I brought food, I brought 12.4 pounds of food, and I brought back a pound.
Oh, you didn't even eat it all.
No.
Wow.
You get so tired some nights. You get in camp at the end of the day, and you don't even want to cook. You just want to drink some water. Wring out your socks, get the water out of your socks, put out your sleeping bag in your tent, and just crash.
Well, where can everybody go see the video when that comes out about that? Let everyone know where.
It'll be on Marty Up North. So I'm Marty Up North on Twitter and Marty Up North on YouTube. The video, I'm gonna have a challenge with the video. You can't see my GoPro, but there's a big giant crack across the plastic case, and then it went right through, and it scratched the whole lens itself. So I'm disappointed, but it's one of those risks. So I only have video for the first part, which thankfully is the best part. But I'll make something happen.
Okay, so people can check it out, and that's amazing.
Yeah.
And for all the political commentary over on Twitter, Marty Up North. Links, as always, in the description. Thanks again, Marty. We'll see you next week.
All right, Clyde. Take care.
Cheers.